So I teach shadow work to people, how to work and integrate our shadow. And our shadow, in a nutshell, is any pain that we repress from our childhood, and often, in my experience from previous lives, just stuff that now is being presented. It can express itself anyway. It doesn't go away. So modern spirituality teaches us to imagine fluffy, light experiences, or to remove toxic people from our lives, and all of this kind of thing. And I would do the opposite of that. I would learn how to work with and work through any of this pain. So then there's no charge. These people don't bother us. We don't feel angry or uncomfortable or depressed. We don't act out in addictive ways or destructive ways, because we make peace with the root of whatever is causing that. That is shadow work. This is the most powerful, really, and life-changing of the three. This woman, she had we only had worked a couple of weeks together probably, and she had a couple of days that she really projected her anger and frustration onto me. I represented man for her, or her experiences with man, or her own masculine, unintegrated masculine energy. And in those moments, she obviously thought that I was the problem. And as we worked through it, this is natural, this is okay. As we worked through it, credit to her, she worked through her pain and her anger and her frustration and her experiences, dysfunctional experiences and aggressive, in times, experiences with men in this lifetime and in previous lifetimes. The great change there was two great changes. One was, unexpectedly, one night out, she bumped into an ex-boyfriend. They sat down and they had a chat, and he unexpectedly accepted some accountability or apologized for the way the relationship had went, which had not happened before. So this was unusual. This was highly unusual. All divine timing, that myself and herself do this work, and then a few nights later she bumps into an ex-boyfriend. Must be coincidence. And he accepts some responsibility for how the relationship went. But what she noticed was she could be present with him without being sucked into it. As she said, without that emotional charge. And in the past, what would have happened is she would have felt sucked in by him, drawn to him. And she didn't at this time. And she says she was relieved to not feel this need. So that was a huge shift, that she didn't. You notice the way sometimes we're drawn again and again to this type of person or the same person. And then we end up hurt or heartbroken. And that's basically, our higher self is drawing us into this person so we can bank and get complete with an experience, with an emotion, with a lesson. And as soon as we get complete with that and integrate that, the lesson's complete. There's no longer a charge. We're no longer drawn to this type of person. So that happened very quickly for her. They also had a talk, a bit about their own relationship and his new relationship. And by the sounds of it, he has changed. That he's helping his new girlfriend to be more confident in the group of friends, and he's more supportive. So I often talk about, the way to change the world is change within, is to make peace within us, with our own spirit. And that energy emanates out into the world. It affects other people. So if we imagine that there is no such thing as time, all possibilities, all potentials are happening right now at the same time, and we can dip between any of them. So if she didn't do the work with me, maybe she wouldn't have bumped into her ex-boyfriend. Maybe she would have, maybe they would have had an argument. Maybe if she had done more work with me, or deeper work, he would have been transformed even more. She would have been transformed even more. There's all these potentials. But we'll take what we can get. So that's a positive in my eyes. That to me was a huge signal of change. It was a sense of closure on this destructive and challenging relationship that she had had. And with that change means, moving forward, the men that she attracts and the men that she is attracted to will be different. She will never be the same again. She has transformed, her energy has transformed. Now that doesn't mean she's completely at peace and she's skipping through the world. But it shows a shift, and it shows I'm always looking for experience. scientific results that we can mark down and say, okay, well, this changes. This has changed. I have changed. This is a new experience. This is proof that the work is having an effect, the things that we are changing. So imagining fluffy experiences, it's all well and good, but I want to see change in my life. I want to see the dynamic of how my relationships, how my quality of life improves. If it doesn't improve, well, then I don't have much interest in doing whatever the work is. So this, to me, is evidence that she is changing, has changed, and that her energy has emanated out and affected someone that she even had no contact with. He has changed as a result of her. This is, as Dolores Cannon talks about, the lighthouse. As we shine our light, as we emanate our higher frequency, it affects those around us and who we interact with. They will interact with us on a higher level, a higher frequency, as her ex-boyfriend did with her. He met her on a higher frequency. This is fantastic. So in the days after this, her parents came to visit, and they noticed that she was more grounded. They were happier for her. They could all communicate on a higher level, bit better, bit more friendly, less confrontational. And that's been my own experience as well with my own parents. As I've made peace with me, I don't need them to be different people. I can accept them who they are because they affect me less. There's less of a charge there. So another woman who had quite an intense breakup of a relationship, and it was a very deep, intense, loving relationship, but brief. It ended abruptly. And in the past, she would have been looking for closure. She would have been seeking phone calls and communication. Her mind wanted to understand what was said and why he said this and what he meant and why she said, why was he behaving this way and why was it over and why didn't he love her and all this kind of thing. And her mind would just drive her bananas, trying to understand and put all these pieces of the jigsaw in place. And within days, and I mean 3 or 4 days of beginning work with myself, she began to see this all differently, to make peace with the pain within herself. She could honor her own pain rather than needing him to make her feel better, or for him to give her closure, or for him to explain himself. And they were due a phone call that was planned. And by divine timing, she had left the room and the phone rang and she missed the call. And she didn't need the call. She didn't go chasing him. In the past, she would have wanted to hear and to control and to understand. So in those days, it just dissipated. That pain of heartbreak. She integrated herself and made peace with herself. And again, that dynamic spreads out, that her next relationship or relationships or the men she interacts with will be a little bit higher. She's integrated what the purpose of that experience was. The frequency is now a bit higher, and if we continue to do this work, we continue to raise, to complete these painful experiences that are presented to us, so they happen less and less and less. And then the last experience is the possibility that we don't know how quickly this can work. We don't know how quickly the universe or our higher self can send us back an experience to show us our change. There was a woman who received an aggressive or confrontational email from work, and she was on her day off, and she was a bit frazzled and anxious. And in the past, she may have responded, reactive, responsive, quick email, which results in conflict and the clash of heads. So she didn't. She began to work, as I've taught her, with her shadow and with this pain within her, this anxiety, and to integrate it. And within minutes, she received another email from the same woman, which had softened and realised, there's a better way to discuss and work through whatever was going on in the work situation, rather than with conflict and confrontation. So within minutes of her working with her own shadow and integrating her own pain, the dynamic had changed. She didn't do anything. She didn't contact this person. She didn't respond to the email. She didn't text. She didn't email. She worked with her own frequency, and the universe responded. Different frequency met her. So that just shows how quickly it is. As I've often said in other videos, we don't need to go out there into the world to hang politicians or bankers or save the whales or save whatever. We work with our own being. As we raise our own frequency, it is reflected in this world around us, in this physical world. And that's a great example. They are great examples. Just to wrap up, I just do want to stress how important I see these to be. That if you've had dysfunctional relationships or perhaps aggressive relationships with men in your life, or females, or whoever around you, these changes are huge. These move towards the possibility of a peaceful relationship, of a loving, supportive relationship, of meeting a man or a woman who meets us on our level, on a higher level. This is incredible. This is life-changing. But we continue to do this work. It's not a quick fix. We're not there yet, and these women are not there yet. This is ongoing. But it's encouraging for us to see these results, because the next time that a piece of pain and shadow tests us, we can remind ourselves and remember the benefits of it, that it worked the last time and my frequency raised and I met someone who was a little bit higher, so if I work through this pocket of pain, I'll get a little bit higher and I'll meet people who are at a higher frequency. It encourages us to keep going. So I hope that was of use. So I'll put a link below for my shadow work course. There's also an option on my Instagram page. You can WhatsApp me. There's no money or anything involved. Ask any questions. You can also book a free consultation. I'll give you a half-hour phone call and we can talk through any of the work I do, any questions you have, and see if it's suitable for you, if you feel you can work with me, if you feel drawn, and if I feel drawn to work with you. There's no rush or pressure on this. I always encourage people to trust your instinct, your gut, not your mind. Don't analyze and read and think and think and think. See how you feel. Your instinct and your spirit knows, and it might say, I'm not ready for this. I don't want to do this. This is not for me. I don't like how this works. And I would say honor that and trust that and follow that. Or it might say there's something here. There's something to explore here. So it might be worth listening to another video by me, or reading my soul retrieval article. I'll put a link below. Or having that phone call, that consultation, and just tease it out. And at the end of that call, you might think, I'm glad I had the call, but this is not for me. And that's perfect. Our work is complete. We move on. So thanks for listening. Enjoy your day. Be well.